making all our posters, they are branding their entire environment green and white to reflect the near tragedy that just happened to Nigeria and the way the narrative is being turned around. The extra narrative is being, the narrative is changing. We don't want to lose the momentum of the narrative. I think that's the bottom of what we're getting into. We people in government spokesmen, military men, we are trying to change the narrative. This morning, at the judicial panel, I saw a military officer who was representing the Nigerian army changing the narrative, almost saying that everybody who was there was some kind of, this time that we use good luck, we call them thoughts. But these are Nigerians, these are legitimate Nigerians. If Nigeria had worked for them, they would not be what we call good news. So we don't believe there's anybody that's a good luck or talk. It is the way the system made them to the future that they've turned our political turn. Anyway, I'm not doing the keynote. I think I will leave this to Onyeka, Nwelue. Onyeka, please. Writer, filmmaker, activist. He's a troublemaker. Troublesome. Somebody says troublesome. While he's coming on that, people are here.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Omaki here, and the test Mr. Pastor Out, government of I following was recently director of Aki, one of the directors of Aki Festival. Achalugo was the program director for Q Festivals. The Q Festival. Now, like everybody, we have a bunch of people here, our volunteers, and everybody is Chioma is around, Dr. Tani Panellists is around, everybody is around. But we're running double program. We're also running the translators session at the same time. But being hosted by your friend, power to us. So they are running the whole start. I will also make the translation of well, I mentioned your name, Onyeka, I hear it. As always said, you're a troublemaker. Get yourself some Oscar off.
I think I've stopped making trouble.
Okay. After that experience, you want
I have repented now.
Oh, you repented.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Mitterand Okorie, who is the moderator, to come. I don't know. He's in Nigeria, and I think his internet must be bad.
Okay.
Internet in Nigeria.
You want to start right away, and then you join us.
Okay, but I'm not as smart as Mitterand. So, but let me just do something. So before when you called me and said you wanted us to have this conversation, I remembered Festus Iyayi's Violence. And it's a book I read when I was in secondary school. So I haven't touched it till now because I couldn't find any copy to read before this. But I remember the story vividly. And it's the story of penury, poverty. It's the story of brutality in a different way. What I would describe it as, I mean, every form of brutality that I know of, I've experienced, must have stemmed from anger. And I always say this thing, they say that a hungry man is an angry man. It's true. Because I always advise people to stay away from poor people. Every poor man is hungry and is angry. And if you step on their toe, they're going to attack you. So if you check most of the brutality attacks that have been meted on people by police, is from police officers who try to extort people who are hungry, who are broke. My own experience was in Abuja in 2017, 26th of January 2017, when about 14 military men beat me up in Abuja because they were trying to drag a prostitute away from my hotel around 1 a.m. And I told them it's not going to happen. I wanted to negotiate with them because I knew they wanted money, but I think they wanted more. They wanted sex from the woman. And I didn't want that to happen. So when they said I obstructed or whatever thing, the English they spoke to me, that I stopped them from doing their work, so they beat me up. And here I have my broken cornea. I can't see properly with my right eye because of what they did to me. And so many other things as well that I've experienced in the hands of security agents. Several times they have dragged me to prisons. There was one that drove me from Lagos to Benin City. And then my people, Nigerians, are very dangerous people. They are horrible people. If you have any issue with a Nigerian who thinks that he's inferior to you, he decides to use police to humble you. So if you're owing a Nigerian 50,000 naira, he's going to pay police 100,000 naira to come and arrest you and imprison you. And I find it hilarious when I saw people going out to protest police brutality. Same people who go to pay police to arrest their neighbor are going on the streets to protest against police brutality. People who sponsor police criminality protest against it. I find Nigerians quite hypocritical. And like I said, that I've repented from being a troublemaker. I'm not sure I have, but it's good to tell these people these things to their faces, because I must tell you that Nigerians are horrible people. I'm just trying to narrate my personal experience before Mitterand. I think Achalugo is here. So I'm waiting for Mitterand, who will be diplomatic enough to moderate this section, because left for me is going to be fire and brimstone. Because I don't think, like when I read about the protest, I laughed for 2 weeks, because I know and I knew that nobody wants to hear this, but it's useless, because how can a criminal protest against criminality? The people on the streets saying end SARS are the same people who will go and pay police at Achalugo to come and arrest somebody for owing them. It does not make sense. This is a society of hypocrites, and nothing will work in such society. And this is a mindset of people who come from very poor homes, who are told to compete with everyone. When I was growing up, you hear things like, oh, see, that Onyeka is doing so well. What are you doing with your life? Can't you go and buy a house? This person has bought house. This person has bought car. Nigeria is a society where people are raised to compete with each other. And if you're going to end poverty, if you're going to end police brutality, if you're going to end criminality, if you're going to make a society work, people need to raise their children well, and the government needs to come into family planning. If a man is jobless, he must not be allowed to marry. If a man has no job and is poor, he must never be allowed to marry or have children. And if he ends up having children, he should be jailed. That's what I think a society that wants to grow should look like. Not every time. Look at the number of people that went to carry food from warehouses in Jos. Look at it. Look at the number of poor people and their children. Why must we allow poor people to have children? Why? If a man is poor, he must never be allowed to have a child until he has a job to be able to take care of himself and then his children. I think Nigerians live like animals in jungles, and somebody needs to tell them that. They're bragging about their children. Oh, my child. One man who has no job has 12 children. Why? Is he crazy? And then they want people to be responsible for their children, you know? Almost if you know the resolution or the resolve of first source youth violence, you will know what poverty can do to the mindset of someone. Poverty can make you lose your wife. Poverty can make you lose your husband. Poverty can make you lose your children. Then you ask them, they say, oh, I'm having a child, I'm having 6 children in case one becomes useful. The others may not be useful. You see, they are gambling with their, because they know that poverty could be genetic too. Poverty is genetic, not could be. It's genetic. If, I hear these things stupid Nigerians say, they said your child can open doors for you. And yet you ask them, how many doors do they open for their own parents who are still poor? You know, they recycle poverty in that country, and it is best for people to run away. Whoever wants to remain there should remain. You see, poor people are wicked. They are angry, and most people who went out to protest went out to eat food. They know nothing is going to change. They went to eat. So it's important for people to understand how poverty can mess up with the mindset of anyone, and to make it, to end poverty, we must try to end people who recycle it, stop all the poor people giving birth to children, make sure they're in prison, lock them up completely. That's my own submission.
Thank you very much. Look, because you are not on ground, we cannot arrest you, but we'll make sure that we...
yeah, it's very good that I'm not on ground at Freedom Park. If not, they will just carry me now and take me to Alago.
Anyway, it was a very important statement. I think it's subject to how we try to understand it. I think we should proceed, if you don't mind. Since other speakers are there.
Actually,
okay, maybe you can just proceed. You don't need to moderate it now. Don't let them go on. Try which one will now join us. Or is it back here now? Can you see Mitterand there? Mitterand Okorie.
I can't see Mitterand, but I can see Achalugo on
okay. Maybe you can just start with Achalugo. You can start any way you want to start.
Yeah, I think she was listening to me, and I'm very, very certain she's one of those diplomats. So she has a different opinion.
I'm talking which one is there now. Which one is in now?
I don't know what is happening. Mitterand's internet was bad.
No, I think Mitterand is not there now.
Really? I can't see him.
Yes. Can you spotlight him?
Okay, I can't see him. Not yet.
Network. Oh, I think he has a bit of a network problem. Maybe what you need to do is...
It's not as small.
Is it there?
Actually, you can continue. And I was talking about ending poverty, and that the only way to end poverty is to make sure that poor people stop giving birth to children.
Well, I'd like to say that we also live on Facebook. If people want to join us on Facebook, we're live on Facebook. Okay. Yeah, actually, we'll continue, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we say.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, I was having a little bit of problem with my connection, but I think it's fine now. I came in and I met Onyeka's rant about. I don't know if he said anything else about ending poverty, but the point that I met was that the key to ending poverty is having little or no children. Procreation is, a stop to procreation or a limitation to procreation is Onyeka's suggestion. So,
for poor people, not people who have money.
Oh, fine. So were there other suggestions? So I know where to carry on from. Oh, that was all.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right then. So I think I will just speak following from that. I think when we define poverty, we tend to always think of it only as material poverty. So sometimes there's poverty that money cannot cure, and I think that's the worst kind of poverty.
Okay.
So the mindset when the mindset is absolutely wrong. So I think that the first, if we want to start fixing even the material poverty, it's important that we solve it from the roots, the head. How do people think? Because there are some people with money, and then the way that they reason, you're like, I thought money should have fixed all of your issues, you know. So even the people who do not have a lot of money, the solution to trying to get them to take suggestions like Onyeka is raising, suggestions like that, is actually fix it from the head. So what is their belief system like? Who do they listen to? What is going to make them change? Because if you're going to come and tell somebody who thinks, like Onyeka said, that this child can bring life to the family, if that's the way that they reason, even if you give them 10 million naira, it's not going to stop them from, in fact, it's going to even make them procreate more. Because, oh my goodness, you know, so let's start asking ourselves questions. And I'm speaking in line with procreation, like Onyeka has mentioned. Why do we have children? Why do we have children? That's the first question that we need to ask ourselves. When we find the answer to that, we now begin to ask the next question. So the reason I want to have kids, is it enough for me to want to have 7, 8, 9, 10, especially when I cannot take care of them? As much as some of us are enlightened, there are still people who feel that children are going to, you know, some people say, the God will send the Peking, go send waiting, you go use train them. That's the way some people think. So these are mindsets that we're dealing with. How to solve things like that? Who do these people listen to? There's some people who, in their religious places, they tell them that contraception is a sin. They tell them that they cannot engage in family planning. So these people, even though they tell them other ways that they can limit the number of children they have, they do not take all the care that they should. And when the children start dropping, it's like, now God do, you know, now God give us. So every day, and you find people, somebody asks you for school fees in January, in September, you're like, hey, my wife just born on a CS, they find money, make them discharge them. You know, you're asking yourself, you already have 4 kids. Why are you asking for money to discharge your wife from the 5th one or from the 6th one? You know, so I think first of all, we as a people, we need to start redefining these things. These are beliefs that have been passed down from generation to generation. It doesn't make it right. At some point, you have to stop and ask yourself why, you know. So that's the first thing for me. Of course, it goes without saying that education would also help in this fight against poverty for us. So education, when we now come to it, again, I like to say that sometimes we're speaking from a privileged perspective. You know, I personally went to very good schools here in Lagos, but I've also been, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but everywhere that I've lived in Lagos, I've lived beside a public school. So I hear what they teach. I hear how they teach. And sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, who are we doing? You send your children to the best schools, but the people that they're going to meet, the entirety of society is also made up of these other people's children who are going to schools where the education is below par. So our government schools are in shambles. Our government schools are in shambles. The private schools, not everybody can afford them. So at the end of the day, it becomes something that I don't think everybody should keep quiet about. Because if you want to be selfish about it and say, oh, I'm going to raise just my own kids, I'm going to send them to the best of schools. How about those who are not going to the best of schools? When the COVID happened and the schools had to go on break and everybody said, oh, go offline. My kids' school, they created WhatsApp groups, created Zoom platforms, created everything. The government school on my street didn't even complete second term. I know that because I know when they resumed from their midterm and then this thing happened. So these are people who, some of their parents don't even have smartphones and they were expected to carry on schooling throughout the COVID duration. So every time that people were saying, oh, I'm getting an extra laptop because I have my children in this class, this one has to be using this one has to be using that phone. I kept asking, I said, what about the children in the government schools? When school resumes, are they going to resume? Schools are resuming, and they're resuming in a new session. From promoted to primary 5 this, promoted to GSS3 that. But some children in the government schools didn't, like I said, they didn't even complete second term. So, and we're all in the same Lagos, we're all in the same Nigeria. So it's forums like this, I don't know, they make me slightly sad because I think that we're not short of brilliant ideas. Nigeria is not where it is today. Nigeria is where it is today. It's not because there are not people who are thinking smart or there are unintelligent people. When we come up with all these ideas, the question always begs, execution. What are we going to do about it? How do we get the government? Me, personally, I've always said, if you want to come and be governor of anywhere, Lagos State, Anambra State, the first thing I would ask for you as a voter is, can you promise me that your children are going to go to the schools in the state? Are they going to, if you begin to make it compulsory for government officials to send their children to schools here, and when they're sending their children to schools in Nigeria, not the top ones, if you know that your child cannot go to the grammar school on your street, then please don't come and contest for. Don't come and tell us you want to lead us. So if we begin to put something, let this government office, let's make it unattractive for these people. So that you know that when you come, the first thing, if you've been told that your child has to go to Ilesha Grammar School, your first thought of assignment will be to make it okay now. You know? Yeah,
but can I add something to what you say? They don't belong to the same class. And I'm a classicist. I believe in hierarchy. I believe poor people and rich people should not be in the same space.
Poor people and rich people should not be
in the same space.
But I'm sure that outside Nigeria, where you are, this Nigeria that you've left, there are schools there that everybody, there's at least some balance. There are schools where everybody can come to, whether you're rich or whether you're poor. Do we have the equivalent in Nigeria? Do we have the equivalent here?
I haven't studied the dynamics in poverty in Nigeria properly, but I strongly believe that poor people and rich people should never ever be in the same space, because poor people will poison the rich.
So do we create another space for poor people, or do we try to end poverty? I don't know. Which of the conversations should we have? Mitterand is here, thank God. So, Moderator, over to you.
Before you comment, please let me say something. If you are able to discriminate the rich, right, the poor from the rich, they will wake up and work hard. Yeah, but because the rich, they are so relaxed. See, if you go to all those places where they live on the water in Lagos, they are so relaxed. They have sex every night. They drink a lot. They don't care what is happening in the world. They just want to drink and have sex and have more children and bring them into this miserable world to suffer with them on the water. And then when they see a rich man, you make them gatesman or driver. They kill you overnight and try to take your money and run away. So there must be distinction. You must divide these people. If you don't divide them, they will kill the rich. So my own is, when I read literature or watch films, I always like Korean drama. If I watch them, I see the distinction between the rich and the poor. And I always want that to happen in Nigeria, where you know the difference between the rich and the poor, because everybody thinks they are rich in Nigeria, even when they are poor.
Okay, but I think as writers, by the way, this is Mitterand Okorie speaking. Apologies for turning into the meeting some 15 minutes late. I was having connectivity problems. So I thank my colleagues, Onyeka Nwelue, founder of James Corey Prize for Literature, and author of Agwetiti Obiota, Island of Happiness, amongst other books. I said Island of Happiness first because it's a very violent book. And of course, he has an upcoming book, Strangers of Braamfontein, which is equally a very violent text. Also, let me welcome Achalugo, Ezekobe. Author of Mmrinzo, The Ones Who Are Rain. Says,
I should be taking you around to my readings, Mitterand. Nobody has pronounced that book like this. Hey, you know.
She's equally a solid photographer and actress as well. As writers, as creatives, you know, we have to be a bit constructive, you know, in terms of whether we want to divide, how we want to divide society, or if society is at all dividable between class lines. I would feel the rich people also need those who will take their kids to school, walk their dog.
and kill them on the way.
So I have always asked, as a I'll say a conflict scholar, how does the subaltern speak? The subaltern, the term is really about people who are marginalized from society, the 1 million boys, or whatever they call them, the, you know, street gangsters, you know, people who steal votes during elections, you know, thugs, Agboro Park, and all. These are the subalterns, you know, are the people who live on the margins of economic life. How do they speak? How do they speak? Due to the circumstances of their environment, how do they speak? How do they respond to power? How do they respond to being priced out of economics? You know, so this is why poverty, I believe, is very closely linked to violence. You know, so as authors, you know, I would like to know, you know, if violence is instrumental in any way. I just want us, you know, I just want to toy with our imagination. Can violence be instrumental in the Nigerian context? Can it bring it? Can anything good come out of violence? Is there any kind of violence that can be instrumental in bringing any sort of change or anything good whatsoever? You know, as creatives, can we imagine? You know, I would have loved if Chigozie was here, because I know his 2 books are also quite violent, you know. And I wanted to really ask, in The Fishermen, when the brothers eventually rose up to kill Abulu, the madman, you know, in the idea that his prophecy caused the death of their brothers, you know, when Benjamin and Obembe, I think, you know, went to the stream to kill Abulu, the madman. Is this a way for us to understand the subaltern? You know, like people who are marginalized from the economy, they are marginalized from politics. How do they respond? Most times they respond through violence. That's mostly how the subalterns speak. You know, so you know, is there any what do we make of this? If the class lines, if the class fault lines is less pronounced, if more people have money, do we think that violence, you know, if more people can fend for themselves, do we think that violence is going to be as prevalent in our society as it is today?
That's for Achalugo, right? Not me.
Both of you, you are my guests. I'm your host.
Okay, let her talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing that I want to say is you and Onyeka, I've seen some violence and poverty and poor people. I think a lot of it being linked together, but I might want to disagree. You know, like Onyeka said earlier, he said, if you put poor people and rich people together, and Mitterand says, oh, you make the poor person you need them to drive your children to school, that they'll kill them on the way. You know, I might want to disagree slightly. And I think that that's an attitude that has led to more greed in this country. In in this class system that we have, this fake class system, by the way, because I always say that many of us that think we're rich in Nigeria, we are one kidney failure away from poverty.
Yes.
One kidney failure away from,
especially in Nigeria. That's why I said it in Nigeria.
Yes. You know, so this class thing, these lines that we've drawn, I think that some of these lines are blurry. We think that these lines are there, but they're not really there exactly. What I want to say is, I do not think that anybody should approach a job from I'm doing this because I don't have money point of view. Menial jobs, they're people who, everybody is needed. The society is needed. We need to strike a balance. Somebody has to be the vulcanizer. Somebody has to be the person who wants to clean your house. Somebody has to be the person who will be the cook. So all of us, we can go to school, we can do all of that, but we find that when it now comes to menial jobs, we look down on people who are poor, so to speak, who are doing menial jobs. But there's some other people who, with their degrees and everything, if they packaged it properly, go on Instagram, you see cleaning companies. Some of them have master's degree. We will now even be bringing them to TED Talks and be saying, oh, entrepreneurs, oh, they're doing good. So why is there a disparity? Why is the person who has gone to school but is still providing menial services? Why are we looking at them as, worthy of how we like it? But the person who hasn't gone to school, we now think that, oh, these poor drivers, this thing.
I'm sorry, I think you misunderstand me. Someone who didn't go to university can actually be very, very wealthy.
Go to your daddy.
Right?
Yes.
A carpenter can be very, very wealthy, more richer than a banker. It's not about the job they're doing. I'm talking about generational poverty. There is generational poverty. People who are perpetually poor, that their poverty makes them angry. And they don't know how to get out of it. Generational poverty, you don't know how to get out of it. I'm not talking about the person from the grass to grace story, guys. No, there are many of them. And there is a way Nigerians build houses in Nigeria. You see, a very wealthy man will go to a slum and build a house so that his neighbors will be poor and he'll be watching them from the upstairs. And the next week, they will gang up and kill him. You get what I mean? So there is this book, and I think you should read it. It's called The White Tiger by Aravinda Diga. He won the Booker Prize, I think 2006 or 7, I can't remember. But it's a story of a driver who decides to kill his boss. And there are so many stories like that. First, initially, I started with Violence by Festus Iyayi. It's a story also of a couple fighting every day because they can't eat every day. So this is the kind of poverty I'm talking about. It's not, and when I said I want it to be divided, I mean that I want you to see a poor man, and he's a poor man. He should not be flexing and making noise that he's rich. And I want you to see a rich man, and he's a rich man because he's not making noise. Rich people never make noise. They don't come on these social platforms and start posting the money they have. People like, what's this guy, Wayfed or whatever, some American guy. He will come online because he's from a very poor family, right? So the poverty is ingrained in him, and to escape it, he's not going to escape it. He's not, because the small money he has seen has gone into his head. But you can't see the wealthy, the truly wealthy, posting pictures. They're insecure. They're scared of the poor people coming to kill them all. So they cannot come and post pictures of their money. So you need to understand the types of poverty. Please, they even wrote it online. Types of poverty. You can see the generational poverty if you check it online. Poverty has types. So we need to focus on the generational one. That's the one I'm talking about. The ones who are generationally poor are the ones that are always angry. They are the ones in police, in SARS. Those people there. Oh. All of them.
Is there not a reason why they are so? When there is a clear-cut distinction, apologies for cutting into your conversation, but where there's a clear-cut distinction between rich people and poor people, there will always be that feeling of either superiority or inferiority that will drive a need and a desire to do something about it. How that need and desire is expressed is what you see as violence from the poor people,
I agree,
or as oppression from the rich. When you go to Western countries,
sorry, I don't think the rich they don't oppress anybody. It's just poor people being feeling oppressed.
Omobi, continue. I think he muted himself back. Yeah, but surely
I will mute. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Go
when
ahead.
a rich person goes to a poor neighborhood, in the example you gave earlier, builds up a house with a balcony so that he can stand there and look over the poor people and lord over them, because it's an internal feeling of satisfaction that he derives as a result of feeling superior over the people around him. That is an internal thing, and there's something broken about that system. When there are people, nobody's talking about a socialist state here. There would always be classifications in every organization, in every society, and there must be people that would do every level of operation to fit. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. It's never complete without all the pieces. But where there is not as big a distinction between the rich and the poor, you will find that people do not feel the need to do something that is drastic or something that will antagonize the next generation of people or the people in a different class. If you go to westernized countries, how do you distinguish a rich man from a poor man at a train station where all of you are standing to get the train? How do you distinguish a rich man and a poor man from the person that just jumps in an Uber or a cab to get to their destination? How do you distinguish the rich and the poor when all of you go jogging around the same circuit in your environment? There is no distinction. There is no distinction, because the poor man feels relatively satisfied with his lot in life because he can feed himself, he can feed his family, he can maintain his societal status without encroaching on the standards of the rich. The rich and the poor will possibly go to the same school, but not all of them will go to the same school, because some are uber rich and will take themselves to the next level. So I think one needs to consider this thing in a much more robust way and understand that we all need to find our place within the society, and a place where you are content, because it's that contentment that makes you feel satisfied enough to stay in your lane. That's just my piece on this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a very robust response. I love that response. But I would want to add that in Nigeria, a lot of the crime doesn't necessarily border on abject lack, but actually borders on greed, even from people in the lower strata. It actually borders on greed, because there are people who if you took them, okay, maybe this is about society now. If you took them outside Nigeria and put in any of the Eastern European countries, for instance, they would be quite comfortable, like they would be part of the middle class. But being in this Nigerian system of dog eat dog, of I pass my neighbor, of you are better than me, my kids go to better schools. If you put them inside the Nigerian system, they immediately start feeling less, because they have a conception that they have a competition mentality. So there is something quite internal, as much as there is something about the system being broken, so that it is so classist that people are so annoyed at each other, that people are feeling oppressed, or that people are indeed oppressed. There is something quite broken about the mindset as well. So if you take that same Nigerian who cannot wait to, seize somebody, kidnap somebody to get money, despite him having a daily job that he's actually doing. If you take that same Nigerian and put him in some Western country, even with earning the same money, he might likely feel that he really is in no competition with someone.
There is a reason for that. And sorry, I need to address this again. There is a reason for that. You see, this issue we're talking about did not start from this generation. We're in the third generation of this problem. When we had societies that had Obas or Igwes or Ezes, people understood their place in society. There was no problem because you knew that you were not the Oba, you were not from the royal family, so you stay your lane. You will know that you belong to the caste of people that are the kingmakers, so you will stay your lane. You will know you are in the category of the fisherman tribe, you will stay your lane. But now we have come into a society where we have clear-cut differentiation, and the mindset comes from a cultural place where you grow up as a child knowing that your rule for survival is get rich or die trying. So we have people that are children or were children once upon a time when this oppression or this looting or this classification truly started becoming apparent. They are the ones that have grown up now, and even if they are, like you said, they have a fairly decent source of income. Like Achalugo said the other time, you are one kidney away from poverty. So you will do whatever it is that you feel you need to do to move yourself at least 2-3 steps away from it. If you had a society where you know that if you're sick or you're unwell, there is a state system that is in place that will take care of you. Why? Because you worked hard, your father worked hard, they paid their taxes, and nobody has pocketed the money. They have built the schools to educate you and educate you properly. They have made you competitive in whatever society you go to in the world. There will be no need to export the brain drain that you get from Nigeria if you know you can make a decent living from it. We talk about menial jobs, plumbers, drivers, chauffeurs, housekeepers. All these jobs exist in the Western world as well. But guess what? They are not menial jobs. They are considered just jobs. The end. There's nothing menial about it. If you're a plumber, there are people that do not go to school. They do not have a degree qualification, but they are very, very good at their job. Call them to come and attend to your plumbing problem in the house. If it's in England, they'll tell you £75 call-out charge. If it's in America, they'll tell you maybe it's $50 or $100 for them to even come out and look at your problem. You and all your book knowledge, Mr. Degree, you will pay them with pleasure. And that is what you get because they have grown up in an environment that they know that they can be worthy in whatever chosen profession or career or a thing that they decide to do. They have self-worth. A lot of the people that you see committing crime here in Nigeria that you describe, these people do not feel a sense of self-worth. They cannot take pride in their job. That's why you find people that will be forming audio forming on the internet. They cannot present themselves as their real selves because their real selves is looked down upon. But if you can be proud to be a plumber, because as a plumber, you can feed your family, you can clothe your family, you can take care of the basic needs that you need, you'll be fine. If you're a hairdresser, it's okay. Growing up, you have only 4 or 5 jobs that you ever do in Nigeria. Lawyer, accountant, engineer, what other to doctor or something else. So those were the only classifications of anything that looks like it's success. Now you have a new generation of people that are defining success by different standards, but the old guard that is in power do not see that as success. Therefore, it is a problem. That's how can a small boy be holding a 1 million phone when I haven't paid? How wouldn't he feel like that? He has to feel like that because the system is stacked against him. And where does this change start from? It starts from the top. If you cannot get the change from the top, how will it ever filter down? How will it ever filter down? So this classification of rich versus poor, it would always be there because in every society it is there. But that distinction does not need to be as clear-cut. It does not need to be as glaring as to make any category feel like they are impoverished, they are less worthy, they do not deserve to be there. And they will do anything to get into the other category. So, sorry, again, just my rant.
Thanks a lot, man. I'm actually applauding. Thanks a lot for that one. You know, you did actually unpack so much. You know, it goes right at the heart of the Nigerian dysfunction. You know, which isn't peculiar, but it's quite troubling given just how long we have degenerated. I want to welcome Chigozie Obioma, one of the guests today. Professor.
I have to apologize. So our time changed last week.
Okay.
So it used to be that we were 7 hours ahead of, Nigeria. So I had put this in my calendar as 10, so I forgot to change, because now we are 1 hour behind. So I was thinking it was 10. I wasn't even doing anything. Okay. I was surprised when Onyeka wrote to me and said you were already on. So sorry about that.
Yeah, still happy to have you here. You haven't missed a lot. We were really just talking about, the intersection of violence and poverty is violence the result of the sprawling poverty in Nigeria? Is violence the result of the intermingling of the rich and the poor? Onyeka said we might start finding a solution if we have a clear demarcation between the rich and the poor. So the rich live in different areas, perhaps the poor live in so it might be, I don't know if that might seem like some sort of apathy arrangement, but at any rate, we have also tried to discuss if there is any instrumental, the instrumentality, of violence. Is there any good it can do in a society like this? And I also drew parallels. I also drew a bit of comparison with the fishermen when I was asking, how does the subaltern speak? How do people who have been denied, priced out of the economy, priced out of politics, are living in the margins of society, how do they respond? How do they speak? People that have pent up anger from years of injustice, how do they speak? So if we have all these classes of people who are hurt, who have been deprived, are we really surprised that ours is such a violent place? So that was really where we were. So feel free to come into the conversation at any point.
Okay, well, I would just add, I did hear a little bit of what Omobi, if that is the right name, was saying, even though I came in at the very center. Well, I think that my take on this thing, if we are talking about Nigeria as an entity, I think it depends on what angle, what perspective you want to view it from. If you are thinking about it in the sense of a nation as something that is documented and recognized, then it's a country. If you are looking at it in terms of actual functionality, then I think that the people who say that Nigeria is fundamentally problematic and dysfunctional, I think you would agree with them, even if you haven't been outside of the country. So, but the role of violence in society, I think, is something that most people, except for ideologues, would say that violence is something that you should discourage, obviously, even in service to any ideology at all. I feel like it's something that so you can revolt, for instance, you can protest, you can ask, at least in a democratic society, for things to change. I think that is, in fact, the civic responsibility of any thinking and rational human being, and depending on how you view the status of society, then you would find certain things as either wrong or not functioning properly. So I like to look at my American friends here, because I live right now in the US, and they think that they have certain problems. For instance, I teach in a university, and it's a leftist fortress, as you would imagine. And a lot of my colleagues wake up every morning for the past 4 years, and you can see them visibly sick, like they are psychologically drained. You could see it just looking at them. What is your problem? You have a good job, you are living in paradise, you know, compared to other parts of the world. Your life is good, anything you want, you have it. The problem is that the president is tweeting and calling people names and insulting people. So to them, that is an existential crisis. So, but if you go to Nigeria, and then, you know, there was a guy the last time I was back home, whose taxi I entered, and you know, I actually wept. That car was about 70 years old. If it's, you know, the door was strung together, the handle of the door by wrapper, you know, cloth. That is the only means of survival that this man has. You know, he did. In fact, his windscreen wiper was broken, and he said he didn't have.
He has 14 children.
1,200 to repair the thing. So that guy, what does it matter what Buhari can call people names from morning till night, you know, if he has money in his pocket. So again, so the discrepancy between the perspective of how you look at society is what, you know, determines your problem. So if your problem is that you want your president to be polite, fine, then you can protest, vote him out, do what you can within a respectable means. So I think what should be the defining principle of any kind of movement should be ethics. Ethics means our relationship to the other. That is what it means. And in most society on earth, in fact, in every society on earth, your ethical responsibility to the other takes preeminence in anything, you see. So even in the Igbo imagination, some people say that it's a radical, should I say, a kind of a radical call to living together, to, you know, to cohabitation. So this is to say that if you think that going out would, you know, say you're a policeman, an instrument of the state, you know, your ethical responsibility to the society that you're protecting, maybe the guy who owns a particular store, is to protect the interest of that person. Also think about your responsibility to the guy who is protesting, you see. You want to make sure that he's alive, his voice is heard, what he's saying is heard. So I think that what happens is when violence gets involved, it destroys, it kind of destroys the dynamic, you know. It changes things, you know, which is why we weep for the folks who died at Lekki Bridge 3 weeks ago. So because the ethical responsibility of both the forces of the state to the protesters was broken by violence. So generally, violence as a utility in a society is deeply suspect. You know, I don't have a dogmatic view, obviously, but this is what I think.
Onyeka, do you want to add to that?
No, I don't want to scatter. I don't want to break any table. Just continue with that, Achalugo. Just continue with that.
Let me, now that you've mentioned it, let's just discuss, even if tangentially, on the NSAS thing, because I mean, it would actually be unfair to discuss about violence without actually touching on such a very recent and terrible incident. Does this character of the Nigerian state as an entity that instrumentalizes violence unfairly, as a character that has for years gotten away, there's no one being held accountable, as a character that has also for years demonstrated that they only actually ever listen to violence. So you can think about the movement for emancipation of the Niger Delta, which they begged to come and take amnesty. Of course, I'm happy that amnesty was offered because their grievances were quite very, very important and fair. Does this entity that also is actually pleading with Boko Haram to come and take amnesty and actually even forgiving so-called repentant militants in some very hazy arrangement called Operation Safe Corridor? So this entity called Nigeria, one, is used to using force to coerce citizens. Secondly, mostly only respects to citizens who then take arms. They respond better to citizens who also take arms. And so what does this mean? What does this mean for the future of the country in terms of expressing grievances peacefully? Is it possible that we might see an escalation if the avenue for peacefully requesting for change, for peacefully requesting not to be killed, the price for this is to actually then be killed. Are we inching to a period in which people may just escalate their response in the wrong direction? Of course, what is the implication in the future? Because at the moment, people are so down, people are hurt. Those who lost people are burying them, but you can't deny that there is an anger just percolating at the bottom, bubbling beneath the skin, that there is a possibility that people are still, going to rise up again. But we can never tell if it will be just as peaceful as before, given the government's response. So anyone can weigh into it.
Okay, so I'll just come in here. As we've said earlier, and I think we all agree on that, violence will not solve anything. Violence by protesters, violence to protesters, violence is we're just going to be knocking ourselves. You knock me, I knock you. But the problem will remain. So at the end of the day, I think that we have a governance and policy and corruption problem in Nigeria. And protests are a one approach to solving it, but protests alone will not work. So if we want to curb the violence, if we want to stop stressing protesters, and also a government too, if they want to reduce their headache, everybody has to come in together. These policies have to be put in place. Corruption is the ground of everything. Corruption is the reason why we are here. So until we actually fix that, because corruption is why these protesters that their rights are now being infringed against, they are not getting as quick a resolution to the problem or to their rights being infringed as we would like. And why? The judiciary is part of Nigeria. It does not exist on its own. So you have this same whole, you get arrested, you have to go to court. I remember years ago when we used to say that, as a lawyer, you are going to court for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years on one problem. And, someone else would look and be like, oh, well, it's not my business, it's not my problem. But we've always complained about how the Nigerian judiciary could be faster. Sometimes the slowness even now takes away the meaning of justice from it. So if we haven't fixed the judiciary, if we haven't fixed it all this while, we cannot expect it to now suddenly work for us when we now need them to step in when the rights of protesters are being infringed against. So I would say that we cannot keep having we always approach problems from a reactive point of view. We do not want to prevent them. We have uprisings, the movement for the emancipation of the Biafran people. We have them, we have the Boko Haram. It's as if there's nothing in place to prevent these things or, quell these things before they. Why do we always want to react? Oh, they've blown up. So you know what? Amnesty. I think we deserve way more than that. We deserve a government that would, they promised us security, they promised us this, they promised us that. So we need to work on a way of getting these things in place. And I think that until we solve that, until we fix governance, put in the right policies, like I said earlier, to make public offices unattractive, to make people who have gone to chop bribe and do all these things, there are no repercussions. Sometimes you might go to jail for 4 weeks and come out and do the triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. You repeat your own. There's nothing there that is making it unattractive for people. So until we fix that, we're just going to keep having panels like this. We're just going to keep talking and we're going to keep talking. Like I said earlier, Nigeria is not where it is because there are no intelligent. It's not because there are no intelligent people to think of the solution. So as we speak today, Onyeka, you've said, oh, stop having children. Chigozie has said his own. And we'll all just keep talking, which I'm saying my own. We're all talking our own. When we finish all this talk, please, the question I want to ask is execution.
Please, I want to add something to what she was saying. You know that the political class, right, is full of criminals and rogues who come from the poor families. They killed people to be where they are in Asorok, all of them, the political class in Nigeria. So now these are products of poverty. If you check the history of all the politicians in Nigeria, they all came from their whole grass to grace story, but they killed people. All the corruption you're talking about is them. Nothing will change in that country unless that class is wiped out. If you do not wipe out the political class in Nigeria, the current political class, nothing will ever change. They are the ones also who pay the aberos, the hungry people, to go and kill people for them. After the protest, they now coined one word. They say it's hoodlum. It became very popular in Nigeria. Hoodlum, 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 hoodlum. Hoodlum. Everybody's not, because the poor people love to commit crime and they love violence. They started looting people's property. You know, this class, the political class and the lower class, they are the biggest problems we have in this world. You need to coordinate them, either wipe them out or put them in prison, in a place where they can be controlled. But we don't want to do all these things. We are just there talking every year. You take drastic action, lock up the lower class, the poor people, lock them up immediately, and then find a way to eliminate the political class. Everybody's laughing, but that is the only way to save that country, because even in the next 7 years, nothing will happen.
Well,
Mitterand, sorry, is it possible to say something?
Okay, yeah, Debola, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Onyeka, it's good to see you. It's been a very long time. How you doing? Okay, I just want to say something about those classism Onyeka has been talking about. I don't know if this will serve as a question or a contribution or something. How do you eliminate poverty or reduce it to the barest minimum in Nigeria when it appears that those who seem to have escaped poverty love to see people poor? I'll give a practical example. My parent has lived in Italy since my dad got here in 1973 and my mom got here in 1975, thereabout, or 76, I'm not too sure now. And then my dad works in the Nigerian embassy here in Italy for 35 years before he eventually retired. There was a time in their office that they had this particular problem. You know, in the embassy, you have those who are local staff, and you have those who are member of the diplomatic corps, right? So of course, as a local staff, because you live in an environment in a country that has a system that is working, it doesn't matter whether you're a cleaner, it doesn't matter whether you're a guard, it doesn't matter whether you're a cook. The host country has a regulation that, see, if you're doing 6 hours here as a cleaner, this is the amount that you ought to earn. The Nigerian embassy, because they feel that they are institution on their own and you can't sue them to courts, not respecting the Vienna Convention, decides on their own that even if this is what the host country says, this is what we're going to pay you. And oftentimes when some of them, like my dad and all that, rise up to say, this is not good, you will see the supposedly in code educated people who you call member of the diplomatic corps, dishing out some sort of, I don't know whether to call it stupid or foolish argument. They'll tell you, oh, you as a security, you earn €1,000, for example, that's the salary of a director in Nigeria. And then again, you ask the question, am I taking Naira to pay my house rent here in Italy? Am I taking Naira to the market? So you can imagine someone who has been through school, who have probably served in different countries as a diplomat, still having that kind of a mentality and a kind of a mindset to still be converting people's salary to Naira and saying, oh, €1,000 is too much. That's the salary of a bank manager in Nigeria. Because the guy feels you as a cleaner is not deserving of a better life. You as a security guard is not deserving to have a property or to own a house. Because he feels you as a cleaner is not even deserving to have an Italian passport. In fact, I tell you, if some of these guys can write a letter to say they should not even give you some of those things, they probably would do it. Like Mitterand was saying something that there are people who in Nigeria are like poor people, but when they find their way to Europe, they can even be at the, I'll make a practical example. My wife runs a salon here and I'm a service provider. By the grace of God, we in Italy, for example, by the categorization of economic class, we together, like if I join my income and that of my wife together, we fall into the category of upper middle class. But I doubt if I will even be in middle class if I'm supposed to be living in Nigeria. By the virtue of what I do and by the virtue of what my wife does, I doubt even if we will be the middle class, let alone the upper middle class. So why is it that the rich people in Nigeria, you say you want to solve the problem, but it appears they just have this, they have this gratification. There's this joy it gives them seeing other people at that poverty, whatever, maybe so they can flex their power or they can have the sense of superiority that, you know what, I am better than you. Here in Italy, what does it matter? Like my landlord had about 3 houses on the street where I live, but then it doesn't matter. Like we relate like every other person. We talk like every other person. He drives a car, I drive a car. Yeah, I know he has money, but when we both stepped out to get something done, you really can't see that difference. You know, you really can't see that huge gap that, oh, this person has this person has that. So when are we going to get to that stage in Nigeria where we respect people regardless of what they do? That you don't look down on people. Like, you know, I have a friend who owns 2 houses in Nigeria and owns a house here in Italy. And what does she do? She does this thing we call bandante here. Bandante is as good as saying somebody is an house girl. It's as good as saying that. And she earns about 1,400 in a month. And because she has to live with that family, she only has 1 day a week to go out. So of course, she's not paying rent, she's not paying bills. So she's able to save lots of money to buy a property here and have 2 houses in Nigeria. How many house girls in Nigeria in codes can even have can even have a flat?
What are the houses doing for her in Nigeria?
You said what?
Sorry, before he answers that, just take note. All I heard from the majority I heard was when you combine his salary and his wife's everything together, they're upper middle class. So they are going to do giveaway. Just take note. You will do giveaway for us. Now continue.
I will make sure of that.
Please, thank you.
So I mean, this is somebody who works as an house girl, but I mean, she's able to afford having 2 houses in Nigeria and then having 1 property here in Italy by earning a decent pay. But again, in Nigeria, if you're working as an house girl, it's been termed as a menial.
But she's still one of the problems of Nigeria. Why is she having 2 houses in Nigeria and she's in Italy? What's she doing with the houses?
Well, I wouldn't. No, maybe for investment.
No, but that's an important question, though.
Yeah, I think.
Why
Collecting
Nigerians
rent?
always acquiring things they don't need?
Can I
People can live
can
there.
I say something?
It's
Can I
not asset.
can I say something?
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
I think I'm
Yeah,
done now.
I think it actually boils down to content. The average Nigerian man is not content. They want to acquire. Even they'll tell themselves, "Oh, I'm content," but in reality, it's not there. You know. So you see that lady, she's over there in abroad. She wants to buy 2. She's trying to build 2 houses. You know, for me, it depends on the individual, though. I mean, like, just live. Don't go beyond your means. You know, just live within your means, and that's it. You don't have to acquire. It's all this greed. You want to get this. You want to get this, and that's what it. Someone talked about gratifying seeing other people suffer, and that's true. You know, Nigerians, they want to see you suffer. The fact that this guy is suffering, they'll pay someone to put you in prison so you can stay there and suffer. You might be owing someone 10,000. He'll pay someone 50,000 to put you in prison because you're disturbing him. Why is this guy disturbing him? You know, so it's a problem. And someone talked about execution. We'll keep talking about this, but still, when is someone going to make that move, you know, take that step and start making things work out, you know? It's crazy.
Yeah.
There is a thought process. Okay, apologies. There is a thought process that you think to yourself, this woman we used in this example, do we realize that this woman is displaced? Do we realize and acknowledge the fact that this woman does not have a place in the current society in which she operates? She said she's doing Bandari. She is not satisfied with where she is because she's a displaced individual. So building 2 homes in her home country, that's a woman with a plan, as far as I'm concerned. I see that as someone who is thinking about her future in an environment where she knows that she will not be catered for in her old age. She's thinking along the lines that, okay, during these years of my youth, let me do all that I can so that in my later years, I will not suffer and I will not have to beg to eat.
Don't forget 2 houses.
2 houses. Have you asked the question, where are those houses? You can build 2 houses in your village and it will cost you $500,000 naira.
And then who's living there?
You can build a hut. No, I'm giving you, look, a very abstract example. The fact that a person builds 2 houses does not necessarily mean that they're thinking from a greedy point of view.
Well, that's where
you have not thought about the invisible black. No, how about the black tax? The invisible or known black tax that Nigerians in diaspora and people that live in other countries that they pay. That is not documented anywhere. Why? Because you cannot be successful on your own. You've got to look after your family. Does she have a mother? Does she have a sister? Does she have people that are depending on her to survive? Why? Because they live in an environment where nothing is provided for them.
This is why we remain poor, perpetually poor, because we only keep working to make others happy. How is that her business with her family? Okay, no. I hear you, and it's a good argument. However, if you are coming from a negative or a disadvantaged position, is it not in your own personal best interest to lift as many of the people that are around you that are of sound mind and of good thinking, so that the generation that comes after you do not have to start from the same place you started? No, they're not my responsibility. And this is why we remain poor. This is why Africa is on
my brother. Listen, nobody's saying that.
About themselves. Africans want to care about 12 neighbors and 12 cousins.
Listen, you've got to do this thing with sense. You've got to use your brain when you're thinking about this thing. Not everybody that is close to you or is your family or is connected to you one way or the other is necessarily going to benefit from the kind of help you can give. There are people that want you to feed them and they want to stay as people that are fed. But there are others that are looking for a way to learn how to fish so that they can feed themselves and be responsible for their own generation of people.
No,
identifying the best places to put your effort.
2 houses is not going to lift anybody up. 2 houses for what? Where will you
my
be
brother,
buried?
Listen,
one of
it's
the
not
houses.
about,
Well,
forget about the buried
individual
or not.
differences.
It is an
Individual
investment, or it could
differences.
be
Yeah,
an
the
Individual
investment.
differences.
I feel like
assembly
we
place.
are
Yeah,
distracting
allow
from
Gozie
the
to come in. Gozie,
from
go on.
One,
Go on.
the. So I feel like we're distracting from the main point. I think that some of the ideas that were put forth earlier on by the Achalugo, I suppose is the name, and Mr. Habib as well, earlier, that we need to actually think about the way forward. These are very good things. So for me, I think they demand that we ask certain questions of the world, of Nigeria, of society. And one thing I've been seeing recently that actually gives me a serious pause, not just in Nigeria, but everywhere, in America, for instance, is that there is a kind of herd thinking that is beginning to, I think it's been there for some time, but it's starting to become the dominant thing. So earlier this year in Australia, I gave a speech and I said that you could go to any conference, any writers' festival, anywhere in America or in the West, and writers, people who are supposed to be intellectuals, will gather. But I may not know any of them. I may never have met them before. And I can tell you what they will say on every topic, what they would think on basically anything you ask them. Why? Because it is very easy to embrace some kind of orthodoxy. Some people think for you and you don't have to think. You just come and spout the same thing. For instance, there is something that is well known now in just an example that some of you might be aware of in African literature. The great thing to do is to not italicize Igbo, for instance, or Yoruba, right? Ask anybody, wake anybody up at any time, at any place. Without thinking, they'll tell you, yes, it is how it should be. But why? Nobody can give any reasonable response. The response you can get from the African-American guy in Baltimore will be the same with the guy in South Africa. Well, the white gaze. What does the white gaze mean? So none of these people have thought about these things in any deep way. So they are just spouting, they just go and, okay, what is the consensus of the community, and everybody goes along with it. So this is to say that we have made some suppositions. So Achalugo, for instance, says that corruption is the problem in Nigeria. I buy that. I think she's right. It's a principled statement. But the question is, what is corruption? Have you thought about what corruption means? Is there corruption in America, for instance? America is a country that is insanely wealthy. I just give an example of how people are looking every day to create problems. They don't have any. They are looking for what is the, how can I find a new problem today? Ike a Nigerian photographer, one of the most well-known ones, is a good friend of mine. He tells me every day, my friends, all of them, they look for problems every single day. So the question then is, have we thought about what corruption really means in the deep sense of the way? Because I would argue that America is one of the most corrupt countries I've ever seen. These are deeply, it's true. These are deeply, look at the media, for instance, extraordinarily dishonest. I could say something like, I could say this book is blue. And the video of me saying it live CNN will spin it. Chigozie Obioma says that evil, you know, a book is evil, but it could be blue. So the framing then is the thing. You see what I'm saying? So once there is lies, a thing is already corrupt. So I think that our problem then would come if we question things more deeply. So if we say that corruption is the problem, we start thinking about certain ways in which we can find corruption. If we're thinking that, then some of the things we are saying here would even count as corrupt. No, really, it's true. So which means that if we actually know what corruption is, we won't be saying certain things that we've been saying. I mean, not to attack anyone. I've been learning a lot. I have enjoyed everything that everyone is saying. So, and then another supposition is the question of Nigeria. We have to solve the problem, you know, by doing this and doing that. What is Nigeria? Should Nigeria exist? If Nigeria should exist, should it exist in the current form? What form has worked before? What hasn't worked? What type of government do we have? Okay, we have a federal system. What is the dynamics in the other places where a federal system is working? Have we thought about the cultural differences? Just about what makes America, whose system we ape, different from Nigeria, both the geographical setup, ethnic setup, and all kinds of things. So must we, if we find, you know, those differences or specifications, must we then ape America? Or if we say, okay, pre-Civil War era regions, or in fact, so pre-Civil War era regional decentralized kind of system, did it do good? To what extent was it successful? So when we start asking these questions, then we might arrive at the conclusion. And we're asking it, nobody has an agenda before you start saying that, oh, he's a Mazop guy. No, I'm not a Mazop. I don't have any allegiances. But I'm saying that the consensus that we just have to accept certain things without questioning is a problem. You will never arrive at any answer if you think about the exigencies of a doctor. If you walk into a hospital and somebody sees you, maybe 10 minutes ago, they saw, you know, so maybe you have a hand on your forehead and you're coming in, and the doctor just says, okay, the lady who came in 10 minutes ago also had a hand on her forehead and had a headache. Then they start treating headache, you know, without any, no, you ask the person, you test them. It might be that this one has something different. It might be that they have a tumor in the brain, you know, not just a headache. So you don't just assume that because it looks like the precursor, then, you know, it's the same thing. So these are some of the things that I think is a problem. And there are a lot of people, actually thinking minds, who have been calling for a long time. Wole Soyinka is one of them. Gani Fawehinmi, before he died, was one of them. Olisa Bakoba. They've been calling for a sovereign national conference. Let us actually come together, dismantle this thing, you know, and think about it again. What does it mean to have Nigeria? To what can we do? What are the restructuring that we can have that can make it work? You can't just be pushing something that is not working. For how many years it hasn't worked, and we're following the same system. And then we say, okay, we can ameliorate certain things. No, it's not going to work like that. So I think So this is where the corrupt class that Onyeka has been talking about comes in. These guys are not interested in that kind of thorough thinking, in in actually solving what is the real problem. In fact, the interventions that Achalugo talks about are true. In Nigeria, bad behavior, or what you graft, just about anything. Take my state, Abia State, for instance, as an example. I think it's one of the worst states in the country. We had a governor who, for 8 years, was stealing. It is found, it is documented, 500 million naira every month, not just one time, every month. Where is the guy now? Is he like in Krikri maximum prison? No, this man is a senator. It was rewarded. What he did. In fact, he has stepped higher. So it is insanity to now say that, okay, I see somebody who succeeded at doing something, and then I will not follow it. No, if anything is rewarded, I have like a little children. If you want them to keep doing something, you reward it. If you don't want them to keep doing something, you punish them. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So somebody was a governor, stole the state dry, and became a senator. Before you know it, he becomes president. And you said that I should not emulate the person. So the idea that people should stop being corrupt does not even come up in a society like Nigeria, because it is the best thing you can do.
Join the political class.
It is ethically irresponsible and even evil, if you look at it, depending on your moral act. But boy, what are you talking about? This is what you emulate. Okay, so, but can we start punishing? Is the infrastructure there, both in terms of the principle and the moral landscape to punish those people? No, there is none. Nobody is interested in, as you said, or Jews or Kalu or whoever, goes to jail for 5 minutes and then comes out. It's just, they just want to, let us just say that at least something happened. So I don't want to take too much time. So 2 things to bear in mind. If you truly want change in Nigeria, number 1, disregard orthodoxies, okay? Think for yourself. Even Americans have stopped thinking. It is a sad thing, it's true. If you ask anybody who is an African American now, what is the solution to police brutality? Defund the police. Okay, have you thought of defunding the police? In Minnesota, just 2 days ago, so since May, after George Floyd was killed, everybody defund the police, defund the police. Okay, last week, so in Minnesota, they defunded the police. Then crime skyrocketed. Murder tripled by like 4 times. So this year alone, more than 700 people have been shot in Minneapolis alone. So last week, they decided to triple the funds for the police. So a few months ago, they defunded the police. Now they have tripled so again, because of lack of thinking. One person says something on Twitter and everybody, has to go along with it like sheep, So again, so it's not only our problem. Fundamentally, I think that the 21st century human being has become lazy because of social media. So this is my take on the thing. And I am included too, so I'm not saying that I'm different from anybody, no.
Thank you.
That was such a powerful and a highly critical and
Obioma 101.
What did you say?
Please, someone else can take the floor.
I said Obioma 101. We've just gone to class. It's easy.
It's still hitting home, so.
Okay, so going on from what he just said, as he was speaking, I just thought about something else. And I realized that another problem that we have with the execution of all these bright ideas that we all come up with is that there are too many bright ideas and there are too many people trying to execute it. So for instance, and the thing always happens after, something shocks us. Nobody really comes. It's as if when the environment is quiet, we shouldn't really be talking about, fixing governance or fixing, but when something hits up the polity, then we come up with things. You now hear people say, oh, you know what, for the next elections, we're going to take power back. Then people now want to register 23 new political parties and say, yes, the youth want to come in, So I want to now create my own political party. You want to create your own political party. 5 of us want to create new political parties to now fight APC and PDP. We don't think about coming to either join the current APC and PDP and bring this out. If we all come in there together, bring these bright ideas there. None of us think of wanting to join political parties, the currently existing ones, which is fine. It's fine if you don't want to join them. Then the new ones, we want to form new ones to go and fight these ones. But we don't want to. I feel like we need a synergy. We don't need it all over the place. There's this thing by Chioma Nwelue. It's called Bribe Code. I don't know if you've heard of it. I remember signing up a couple of years ago. I looked at some of the things that Bribe Code wanted to achieve. And there are now other, everybody wants to, we don't want to think of this thing that I think will fix Nigeria's problem. Is there an already existing initiative that is already working on it? So I can go and join and put my energy there. No, we don't. Alignment is not part of what we want to think of. So Onyeka, I see you shaking your head.
Nigeria's problem without killing all the people I told you about. You can't. Gosh. You can't stop. We were talking about violence. You don't need violence to cleanse that class. The political class is bloodthirsty, so you need to use blood to wipe them away as well.
Okay, so I think there are a lot of people watching and taking notes. Moderator, I hope you're taking notes of everything that we're suggesting. We're suggesting end corruption, we're suggesting alignment. Somebody's suggesting that we take all the poor people, keep them in one place. Yes. Somebody's suggesting that we take all the political people, put them together, firing squad.
No, I didn't say firing squad.
No, how should we remove them now?
No, you can use poison. You can use poison, go to their
Okay, please, someone should just take note of all the ideas that we're coming up with, and which I don't want to say I'm up for whichever is the faster solution. I don't think so, but just take note.
I don't like people shooting, but poison can do the work. At a party in Asoro.
It's Onyeka that said it.
I think you should be careful with what you're saying.
It's Onyeka that said it. I hope they're taking notes.
No, let him take more notes. I said it.
No, that's not the useful.
Yeah, I know. Chigozie, I know you sound like that because you're in public. Don't worry, we'll discuss that in private.
No. It's not useful or helpful to anyone. I think we should be more serious. So
yeah.
One of the beauties of a free society is that you're allowed to express yourself. So the gentleman is entitled to his opinion. How people interpret it is entirely up to them. But in light of looking for solutions from Nigeria, I think I've got a couple of thoughts that obviously everyone is free to disagree with. Firstly, it starts from, you see, the issue of corruption. Corruption exists in every society. It's not as pronounced as in some than as it is in others. But corruption has a very simple solution. We've got laws, we've got the constitution. Any society that cannot enforce the laws that are put in place to protect its citizens cannot then start turn around and shout that people are being lawless, because the law exists for a reason. So if we're going to address Nigerians' problems, we have to start by enforcing our laws freely and fairly. Met it out so that equality, that not being above the law, that rule of law is established and people know and trust the system. Because they don't trust it, it just means that they know that, look, if you stole in the government, you will get away with it, you will get rewarded, which then encourages the next generation to do so. Let's start with that. The next thing then is, look, If you cannot, the pen is mightier than the sword, which is why as writers, and I'm not one of you, as writers, you guys have an immense ability to change things in a way that other people cannot. But how do you change things when the people that you're trying to talk to do not even read stuff? So education is key. Now, education, where did they bring it from? It's not just learning your trade. Education is the system by which you are built. You are programmed and reprogrammed as necessary to achieve an end goal. When you are educated, the people that we are seeing day in, day out stealing, there are two types of education. There's the formal one and there's the informal one. So if we have a system that shows people that, look, if you do this, you will get this. This is the reward for your actions. And that starts from the top all the way down. Once people genuinely start going to jail and suffering the consequences of the corruption that they're doing, then it starts filtering down to say, actually, you can't get away with this. If you do it, they will open your nyash. They will expose you. And when they expose you, you will suffer the consequences. Then you start filtering that down into the educational system, where students who are the future of tomorrow start understanding that, look, their society has changed or is changing. And if you do and follow the steps, you will get the rewards that come with it. And that's how we can filter it all the way down to the grassroots level. That's just my take. Once again, thank you.
Well, that's good. I mean, but you also, I think what is missing from there, the educational part is framing. So I think it comes down to character, basically, is what we are all saying. So when you talk about corruption, you are talking about the character of a person. So what is your ethical responsibility to yourself, to society, to others? So the fact that that murder, for instance, is prohibited in society, you cannot kill, thou shalt not kill, does not make it impossible. So what you do, even if you could get away with something, choosing not to do something is what determines the arc of someone's morality. So where education can come in, and I'm saying this as a professor, someone who is in the America's educational system, has been for about 8 years now. I can tell you that what frames people's morality doesn't have to be from the school. It could be, but it can come down from family, from the church and the mosque. So Nigeria is a deeply religious country. So we talk about us being the poster child for corruption all the time. But think about it. What is true Christianity? True Christianity is supposed to be something that makes you say, oh, instead of lying, I would rather go to jail. I will be stoned. This is what Christianity means. But look at how Christianity has functioned in Nigeria. It has been completely hollowed out and corrupted and turned inside out into something different that it is not. No, true. So the Nigerian brand of Christianity, you can be a pastor and be deeply corrupt. I mean, you tell lies at any, I would use myself as an example. I have relatives who are pastors. When it comes to getting what they want, they forge documents to get visa, all kinds of things. But no, this does not, they don't even think, like, it doesn't even occur to them that what I am doing is deeply immoral. They would even tell you that the scripture sanctions it. So that is it. So you have something that should frame the morality of society, but completely fails at doing it. Same thing. So the educational sector, which the church is a kind of educational sector. The Sunday school is supposed to make you into a principled human being, but it fails in that. So the school can too. If you look at the Soviet Union and some of the worst, in fact, China, for instance, communist regimes where there's absolute totalitarianism, where people have, like, the most injustice has been committed. Some of those places are deeply well educated. I mean, in fact, school is something that is forced. You know, it's like a necessity or compulsory for you to go to school there. And it just shapes people in a different way. So I know it's something that is brought up all the time. We have to go back to the schools. But I think that the family and society itself is what would produce a moral arc for people. So one thing, just very quickly, last point I'll make here would be, let us look at the pre-colonial, say, Igbo society or Yoruba society, either of them, which I know very much about, just for example. Mm-hmm. Think about what has changed in us as people from what we had to now. So now you go to anywhere, you go to Aba, you go to Lagos, you see people homeless and just going about, you know, without any kind of shelter, and nobody makes any intervention. Was that possible in any Igbo village or town in pre-colonial time? Absolutely not.
Yeah, because there was no capitalism.
You don't have a house, everybody, your family, number one, the family structure is there as a guide against such things. The people will build a house for you. The community will build a place for you. So something in us, a kind of a national character has changed, you know, irrespective. So, and we've had, you know, we morphed from what people thought was uncivilized to, you know, Western educational society. Yet our moral character became even more decadent. So some of the things we talk about, this governor who stole the wealth of the commonwealth of the people, would it have been possible in Igbo? I would argue no. So we were so community conscious that the God of justice is, you know, was called Amandioha. The will of the people, literally, is what it means. So you going against what the community, what the society, something that is detrimental to the society, was seen as the greatest crime, you know, in society. So even without punishment, there were, you know, retributive justice and all kinds of establishments in place to check those things. But even outside of that, people knew not to do things like that. So this would be my take, that it is us as a people. Colonialism has done something to the character of the, you know, of who we are, that we have not recovered from. So until we recover, we can't do it. We can decide today. I say all the time, Nigeria can change all this. Even if we want to have Nigeria, Nigeria can change in 3 years and become like anywhere else comparably. We have the resources. If all of us decide that we want to become good, we want to do what is right, we don't need any kind of gathering or anything. I want to make sure that if I have 500 naira that is meant for everybody, I give it to them. So last question. People were sending me video of the masses rushing into different warehouses and, you know, cutting out SARS relief, this thing and all that. You know, Adamawa, oh, my sister, oh, Chigozie, this is Adamawa, oh, how evil are people. Then Lagos, then Aba, all of these things. One question I keep asking everybody is this. Do you know a single person in Nigeria who will distribute that thing as it should have been distributed? Who will not say, okay, at least let me keep one bag for my family. Tell me one person
Me.
that you know. Just one. If you can find anybody who will like the way that it was meant to be distributed from all of us. No. We can make the decision. It doesn't matter. I don't have to have even cloth to wear. So far, society is good. So far, every other person is fine. I would trade my car. I would live in a shack. Start thinking of others. Put them above yourself. That is what humility. We have no humility in Nigeria. This is why you get into Abuja airport and the roof is leaking. There's no air conditioner. But just drive 2 meters outside of the airport. The very next person in the next house has air conditioner. Why? Because Abuja airport is for everybody. Who cares about what others do? It is but my house will have air conditioner, but the place that is for everybody, no. Because it's an open public forum. So thank you, my people.
Okay. Sorry, Mitterand, is it possible to ask a question?
We have run out of time, but just you can do so quickly.
Okay. The last person that spoke before Prof spoke, talked about how you writers and intellectuals can actually frame education in such a way to build a better society. Here is my question. Do any one of us actually really think that the young people, the present young people in Nigeria, can actually change the situation of the country? And this is the reason why I'm asking. You see, we speak about, this governors, this president, and this thing. But my question is this. Some of these guys are not even as smart as they should, holding a political office. Who are those people who do this job of PR for them? Is it not the same intellectual? Who are these people who do the job of cleaning? Trying to justify the unjustifiable by the power of what they know. Is it not the same? Is it not the same intellectual people? Is it not? Somebody like Femi Adesina will come and tell us that we are wailing wailers. Is it not part of the intellectuals? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I want to ask, as intellectuals, where do you people draw the boundary to say, you know what, even if I earn a pay, I don't have a problem with earning a pay from your talent, but where do you draw the boundary to say, even if I earn a pay from this job, this is totally against my values, against my ethics, and I'm not going to do this? Where do you draw the boundary?
Yeah, it will always be a personal decision. In terms of Nigeria, people, like what we've been saying, people are so driven by greed. People are so driven by the need to oppress others, so that they do not actually have any abiding faith, by the morality that should guide or shape their profession. But I do not think it's peculiar to Nigeria, though. I recall there is a new guy when Trump was having issues with Dr. Fauci because he wasn't co-signing lots of what, he wasn't co-signing the narrative that he wanted. Trump got some other guy, I don't know his name, who actually stood on the podium and said that masks do not work. Can you imagine that in America, that a medical professional, a public health professional could say that masks do not work? But he's doing, of course, it's the typical psychophancy that you would normally attribute to a Nigerian careerist, And so I just think it's always going to be a personal decision, whether people, professionals, intellectuals, anybody from any walk of life, it's always going to be a personal decision whether you are going to have a moral core that allows you to say, I do intend to benefit from my talent, but I do not intend to be a hack or do anybody's hack job. So with that, I want to thank everybody that came on the show. I want to thank our guests, Professor Chigozie Obioma, Onyeka, Nwelue, Achalugo, Ezekobe, and everybody that made contributions, yourself, David Milano, Omobi. I specifically enjoyed him. I hope I could really get to know you. So please,
know him.
Holla at me on Facebook, please. Mitterand Okorie. I really would like to keep in touch with you. I think you have a very brilliant mind. And yes, we will be rounding up here 2 hours of very highly interactive and robust discussion. I thank you all for coming. It has been a pleasure from myself, Mitterand Okorie, anchoring this segment of the program. Last but not least, my appreciation or our appreciation to Lagos Book and Arts Festival for affording us this opportunity. Thank you and God bless you. Ciao.
Thank you for having us.
Ciao.
And thank you, LABAF. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. A lot of people want to ask questions from I got some messages on my WhatsApp. I want to ask, I want to make contribution. Are we going to take them? Even from here. A lot of people said they want to ask questions just for another 10 minutes.
Okay. It looks like Mitterand just left.
Yeah. Anybody from the Zoom want to ask questions? Can you check them? Who's that wanting to ask questions? Baptista? Okay. You can come out. But we have some people in the room here and we want to ask questions. The comments and the question of giving that is okay. One of the things I've learned nationally from the discussion that I've made to me, they are not using it as one of the things I've learned nationally is the fact that we are able to look at violence and the interplay of violence as an instrument of social change and poverty. And it's beginning to appear that violence is something that the youths are eager to embrace. Joshua is getting among them who become Christians and street kings and rulers. But somebody has also pointed out that violence will not bring a positive change. Because when violence comes into an environment of protest, it has a way of taking you through another very, very unpleasant turn and with dangerous consequences. So we are saying that since violence will not do it, how do we now go about ensuring that they use their energy and their very bright and brilliant ideas to make change happen? We'll get to a point where they can now harness that same energy that's in them at the intellectual and the physical level to get to a point where they can ensure that violence will be out of it, but that same force that they have will energize the physical system so that they can eventually have a change. In summary, violence, we said, is a no-no. What alternative do we have? Given that Nigeria has a very large population of people who are youth, and they are eager now, with the knowledge that they have and everything, to go ahead and pursue change. What alternative do we have for them? Thank you very much. We'll take this just take note, that is one. There's a second question that it's about the adding of Chairman of Manta Lagos. Please, you will make this very, very amazing. Thank you for the robust discussion. But quickly, it is not more of a question, but certain things because I listened through and it was fantastic. But we need to quickly clarify some things that I just feel. Being in the system and knowing the systems, I've come to understand one thing. You see, there are two sides of poverty. There's the poverty that has to do with economics. Yeah, it is left to the different individuals. That you cannot blame on the government. But there is that poverty that is attached to the social well-being of the people. That is directly connected to the lack of good governance. So if you want to begin to cast a passion and talk about poverty, the poor people should be separated from them. It's a wrong way of looking at it. We have to look at the kind of poverty we are talking about. And the kind of poverty I know that is prevalent in the Nigerian society is the poverty that has to do with the social well-being of people. That's how people become angry. That is why The other one is about youth. I just stepped back. When the ex-house thing kept going on and on, it took me a time to step back and think about it. All of the people, most of the people in the political class now, right? Most of them, go and watch, they started out as youth. So is this not a cycle? Is this not a cycle that we need? Instead of celebrating it, we need to be circumspect about it. Are we not going back to the beginning of the cycle to round another corner? These are very, because as we are speaking, if I know the political manipulation going on in Nigeria, they are beginning to recruit those same youth that we are talking about NSAS now. So that cycle that breeds social anomaly, how are we going to be able, because it is good when we talk about what to do to make the country out of corruption and out of this and out of that, very good. But it is always in my thinking to go to the roots. Almost all of those who have been in leadership position in Nigeria, they are started from the youth, and they have held on up till now. Is this not another cycle that we are about to confront? Thank you. Well, I hope because I got a message from Onyeka, and I don't hear his first statement. I think he was saying that the state violence is not the answer. What is the alternative? I'm sure you got Mr. Martin again also. Was that there for you? Which one?
I don't know, maybe somebody should respond to the question.
Okay. Did you get the first question? Did you get the first question?
No, not at all. We didn't hear the first person.
Okay, you were saying that the state violence is not the answer. If you agree that violence is not the answer, what is the alternative? How do we move forward from not being violently engaged to doing something more, something different? We're trying to have the second person, right?
I think, okay, I think publicly, we always say violence is not the answer, publicly. Everybody comes out in the public so that they don't get imprisoned for inciting violence. So we always say that publicly, but there will be no revolution without violence.
Okay. Yeah. So, that's the answer for you. With due respect, I want to put it to you that it is not in every revolution there is violence.
Which revolution? Which one did not come with violence?
Creative revolution does not come with violence. That's the level that we engage at the
No, but you belong to the generation that destroyed Nigeria. You belong to the generation that destroyed Nigeria.
When people took over, you are asking everyone to when what started as an extreme democratic process.
Nobody in his right mind should take anybody from my father's generation seriously. That's what I'm saying. Nobody in his right mind should take anybody from my father's generation seriously. They destroyed the country and they have no moral right to speak.
Okay. What we are saying here essentially is that, like I said before, it is not like revolution that was used as revolutions across the world. Discover that there are different ways that it can be done. Some of them were done through protests, some of them were done through violent engagement, some of them were done through creating which people are writing and singing songs and doing poems and all that. So they make people's minds and get them attention to what they should be doing. So I'm putting it to you now that violence, that we are advocating will not be the answer. If you are going to have violent result at all.
And I'm responding to you that your generation did not use violence. That is why we are where we are now.
No, we won't do violence. We will not. Let me tell you how we will not. Somebody said, I heard that yes, this woman said that the youth can form the political party, for instance. A party that will be dominated by the youth with creative ideas and modern thoughts that can be started. That's what I'm saying.
Excuse me, sir. You still do not understand what I'm saying. Your generation has no moral right to tell us how we can change what you people destroyed. Fix what you people destroyed. That's what I'm saying. Your generation has no right at all, not one bit, to speak when we are
If you are listening to Mr. Wakile, he said that he is afraid that we are going through a recycling, that the same type of people that are leadership today, but at one time when they are youth like today, but that they have ascended to a point where they think about the class now, and they are doing the same thing, and some new set of youths are coming up now to challenge them robustly. So, the point I'm making here is that the generation has created the problem. It is not enough to live in that and go to bed as
No, but what I'm saying, you still don't understand. I'm saying you don't have any right to give us advice. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Because we see enough of life to see that there's a cycle going on. And if you're not careful, it's still doing the same and you'll not get anywhere. Thank you very much.
Okay, please, I'd like to come in here. I'd like to come in here. Oh, okay. So for those of us on the Zoom platform, we really cannot hear a lot of what is going on there with the people on the microphones. It's not clear. And I cannot say that I heard everything. But from what I picked, I'm just going to address certain things. I've heard age coming around leadership and all. I really didn't hear everything. So I'm apologizing in advance if I speak out of context. But Onyeka, I wanted to quickly point out that when people say that violence is not the answer, it's not because we're afraid of getting imprisoned. It's because we really think that violence is not the answer. I think that if you want to do a revolution or if you want to change something, structure is really important. And usually violence comes without structure. So ideally, what obtains without a structure to it, without an approach, without a sensible, logical approach to it, is likely to fail. So that's why we say violence is not the answer. And then personally, about age and leadership, I believe a lot more in efficiency, in who can do the job over how old they are. We all know the age of today's, the new president of America and the age of the new vice president of America. None of them are 32, none of them are 25. It doesn't mean that they're going to be the most efficient, but it also doesn't mean that, you know, if we have young people, everything is going to change. Yes, young people are welcome. I don't think that age really should be the primary focus when we are thinking of who can do what, leadership, who can do the work. I think that's our primary focus. And then you can now begin to bring in these other things, inclusivity for the young people, for the younger generation, and all of that.
Where may I stand, and I will always say that, is that a generation that failed their children should never be allowed to speak, right? So when Fidel Castro probably was my age when he started all his revolution. So if you are going to be giving us advice as an older person, you must show us what you have been able to do. Is it this country that has no railway system? And somebody who is my father's age mate is telling me how we need to live when they could not even fix it. And they have no right. They have tried their own and failed. Let us try. They should leave the current generation to figure it their own way. They need to shut up. The old generation need to shut up and sleep and rest. Let us continue. Let them return. That's what I'm saying. Not them coming out to give us advice. These people don't understand what I'm trying to say. Let them rest. I've even told my own father, rest. Let us continue from where you people failed and see how we can fix it. They failed woefully, and they need to be told. Every young person is failed because the culture tells you to respect your elder. Mba. Let them hear it that they failed and must wait. So if an older person takes the mic to give me oh, you young people, violence is not the answer. No, they have no right. Not at all. Not at all. That's what I'm saying. They have to wait. Now, it is
I would like to come in here very briefly. Again, respecting everyone's opinions, and everyone is entitled to having them. Violence is indeed not the answer for some. Violence may be the answer for others. Organized chaos is not necessarily, violence could be organized chaos, but violence does not have to be physical. Why can't this generation be intellectually violent? Why can't this generation change the game? Because the old guard are used to a type of violence. That's the language they understand. You cannot fight a war with someone when you are playing on the person's field. NSAS was a new kind of war. It was a war that the old generation did not understand because they could not figure out how a generation of leaderless young people could coordinate themselves in that manner as to destabilize what they knew as status quo.
There was no Ojukwu.
But the point is, look, violence begets violence. That's just the way it is. If we're talking physical violence, people are just going to die, and you may not end up getting the change you want. However, if you are violent in many other areas, violent with the amount of social media influence you give, violence with the use of technology, which is something that we have that the older generation never did. All they had was their voices and their protests and their marches, and they were met with huge violence that silenced them because the people that are supposed to be backing them, they love their families. Nobody's ready to die unnecessarily. And that's where the line gets drawn for most people. So again, I wouldn't say that violence may not be the answer. It may be the answer that is needed, but it needs to be organized, it needs to be orchestrated, and it does not necessarily need to be physical. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I kept thinking here that there's something like creative violence. Instead of creative solution, I'm saying there's creative violence. What I was proposed, Onyeka, I hope you're still there. I think we have a job cut out for us. We have to continue with that. And Onyeka is part of Cora. I know the way Cora says about this kind of issue. Onyeka, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, sir.
Oh, okay. I think we should from here propose a next session. You're a part of Arsenal. You joined Arsenal at the age of 13 or 14. And you know how we have been, that we've been doing this for every quarter. May I propose to you that Cora and Achalugo, or any of the organizations that want to bring in, that we should have daily as a quarterly kind of discussion of twice a year. We have to engage, the youth, the young, and the youth. The youth and the youth. How the youth generation of what I say are youth. Alright. I want us to have a meeting point where we continue to have this kind of engagement. But you know what is something? If there's anybody who has one coalition, and there's anybody who wants to understand perfectly, it is you. The two of you, even this morning, you call me about some charity you are having in front of our program activities. So when you say that the world we should go and gather, or we should go back on and shut up, are you saying that your grand godfather coalition you should shut up?
No.
Back and go.
There is always an exception. There is always an exception. Because my own father did not stay in prison for 2 years in solitary confinement. So there are also some people, probably 5 people, right? There is always an exception. But then the collective didn't do enough work in the country. So I choose who I worship, and that is based on what you have done. So my own father did not do anything. They were the ones that were running in the bush, in Umuahia and the rest of them, while others were in the forefront. So it's not every adult or old person that speaks, that decides to give advice that you should take the advice because they are old. It's not every.
It's not about personality, it's more about the idea. And I think so. You agree that we're going to continue the dialogue. We have to have another session to really choose something. I said you agree with me that we should continue this dialogue. We should have where we all meet like this.
I agree.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Well, anytime all you find then Achalugo, very much. Obioma have not seen for ages, but we will meet on Facebook anyway. Thank you very much. Mitterand, thank you very much. Onyeka, thank you. Everybody on the panel, thank you very much. You want to say something, Onyeka? And thank you for taking this from Onyeka. We have to continue with that. But you know what we are doing tomorrow? We've dedicated the whole of tomorrow that we get to the park everywhere in the country. Really. We dedicated tomorrow to the next bad governance conversation. Using them to get one of the speakers for tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to continue that. We're going to have lots of young people discussing the future of NSAS, that program, end of Nigeria. If you want to end Nigeria, we need to start at one end. What is it? Let's start with something. So thank you very much, everybody who has been part of the conversation. When you're on that, send you the version of the laptop. Thank you very much, everybody, for being in great session. It is recorded, and we're going to ensure that you get a copy of the recording. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Actually, thank you. Now I have to go and get your food and read it from tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. And that's good night from the control room. And we go for comment. Thank you. Bye. Yes.